Welcome to City of Sugar Land City Council meeting for Tuesday, June the 4th. A little bit about our agenda tonight. In a minute, Councilman Porter is going to give us the invocation. That'll be followed by the pledge, and then we've got two recognitions tonight. So, Steve, are you ready?
I invite you to join me in prayer. Almighty God, maker of all things, judge of all people, you are good and your love for us endures forever. You have made the heavens and the earth by your great power and outstretched arm. Nothing is too hard for you. We pause now to acknowledge that to you all hearts are open, all desires known, and from you no secrets are hidden. And from you alone comes all counsel, wisdom, and understanding, so that we, your all too human and fallible servants, here gathered in your name to do the work of governing fairly and justly, do most humbly ask that you send down your heavenly wisdom to direct and guide us in all our work here on behalf of the citizens of our fair city, and grant that we, having reverence for you and the awareness of a sure judgment to come, will lay aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections, and further grant that the conduct, discourse, and deliberations of those here present may be to the glory of your most blessed name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
We've got a couple special recognitions tonight. I'm going to ask Pat Hughes, our Assistant Fire Chief, to come down. Pat, it's Hurricane Preparedness Week. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it's that time of year again. We're getting everything geared back up for another 6 months of making sure we're paying attention to everything that's going on. The National Weather Service and all the companies that are out there that follow weather are saying we're going to have an average hurricane season. It really doesn't mean anything other than pay attention to what's going on. It just takes one storm to cause problems. I assure you as staff, we are paying constant attention to what's going on. As of this evening and today, we've been paying attention to the weather just to make sure that we're prepared should we get some of the rain of that first event that's happened in the Gulf. But so I would recommend to everybody to go to our website, at least get involved in, make sure that you get on the Notify Us or Notify Me web page to, if you haven't signed up to be able to get notifications from the city, please do so. And take a look at our disaster preparedness guide. It's got a lot of good information in there for your families and all, so that if we do run into a situation, you'll have the information you need to make sure your family's prepared.
Thank you, Pat. We've got a proclamation for Hurricane Preparedness Week, June 2nd through 8, 2019, whereas the 2019 Atlantic hurricane season officially begins June the 1st and ends on November the 30th of this year. And whereas after an active hurricane season in 2018 with 15 named storms, 8 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes, public education and emergency preparedness are the best defense against the dangers associated with hurricanes and or tropical storms. And whereas Storm Geometeorological Services forecast the possibility of 11 to 13 named storms, 4 to 5 hurricanes, and 1 to 2 major hurricanes during this season, the City of Sugar Land urges all residents to be aware of the potential dangers, to be prepared, and pay attention to forecasts, watches, and warnings, and it's issued by my hand as the mayor of the City of Sugar Land and City Council. Pat? Thank you very much for all you do. Thank you. Yes, sir. Roman, you want to get a picture? Pat, come back up here. Castle. Here, go ahead.
All right, everyone, looking up here, please. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
There we go. Thanks, bud. Appreciate it. And now you're in for, I think, what's going to be a real treat for you. I'm going to ask Tyler Wallace, who is the Dulles High School Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps cadet and who received the Silver Valor Award, to join me on the podium. I'd also like his mom, his dad, his sisters, and we also have Major Hahn, Sergeant Hardy, and Dulles High School Assistant Principal Corey Stewart. If you could please join me. Tyler, I'm going to let you introduce your family, and then I'd like you to introduce the item. Tell us what you did. It's pretty extraordinary. Come on over here.
Hello, my name is Cadet Major Tyler Wallace. This is my mom, Bailey Wallace, my two sisters, Abigail Wallace and Elizabeth Wallace, my father, Bo Wallace, my assistant principal, Corey Stewart, my sassy, Major Hahn, and my ASI, Sergeant Hardy. It was the end of summer last year that we were traveling on a highway in North Texas, in Vernon, Texas, and we were in an RV coming home from a long trip, and we arrived upon a large dust storm. Upon further notice, we discovered a van that an 18-wheeler slammed in the back of the van, mangled the entire van, and we immediately stopped the RV and jumped into action, rendering first aid to all of the passengers on the van. It ended up being that one lady on the van had a shattered arm, one man had a neck injury. There was a baby on board that miraculously did not suffer any injuries. There was the father of the van who was uninjured except a minor back injury, and he was just shaken up. And you know, the entire incident, it taught me so much of how to be humble and how lucky I am just driving down the road, because anything can happen. We just don't know.
Truly, you're an extraordinary young man to be able to, with a reaction like that, something that you can't plan, you can't train for, to be able to react like that, to go forward and try to help other people, when it's in a life and death situation. So pretty easy to see why you got the Silver Valor Award. And your mom's real proud. She said she didn't want to speak because she's going to cry. So, Bo, would you like to say something?
I think he's covered it all.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Corey, and then you guys can pass the mic down, please.
As an assistant principal in education, we do our best to teach kids a variety of things in education. However, what he exhibited was not something I could teach. It's not in my curriculum books. It's not in any lesson plan. A true test of a man's character is how he performs in times like that, so I'm very proud of you.
Tyler, we've seen him grow from 5'1", you can see now 6'3". And his leadership has grown too over the last 4 years. And we didn't expect anything less. His family, mom and dad, have always supported ROTC. Bailey, our Booster Club president, is at almost every activity. And next week she's going to summer camp with us. And next year, Tyler is the group commander of 125 cadets. So we expect great things in the future of him. And you should see his name, hopefully, in the future. Doing great things. Thank you, Tyler.
It's no surprise that Tyler is standing here receiving this recognition. The Silver Valor Award is one of the highest awards that can be awarded to any Air Force JROTC cadet. From the beginning when I met Tyler, he's always willing to help other cadets. So it's not really a surprise that he would jump and take charge like that. So we were very proud of Tyler, and we're looking for great things. He's our group commander, which is the highest position that you can have in the Corps. So we're looking for great things from him this year. Thank you, Tyler.
Tyler, we've got a proclamation here from the Office of the Mayor, Tyler Wallace, Dulles High School Air Force Junior ROTC. Whereas on May 3rd, 2019, Tyler Wallace, a Dulles High School Air Force Junior ROTC cadet, was awarded the Silver Valor Award, one of the highest awards earned in the Air Force Junior ROTC program, for his acts of heroism for the first time in Dulles High School history. And whereas when returning home to Sugar Land on a Northwest Texas highway, Tyler and his family were suddenly in a dust storm. Traffic stopped and witnessed a horrifying car accident. Tyler stopped and rendered aid to a family in a small church van who was slammed from behind by an 18-wheeler. And Cadet Wallace's quick decision helped save the lives of 5 strangers. And whereas Cadet Wallace's act of bravery, citizenship, responsibility, and dedication to his fellow man was displayed in rendering aid and saving lives, Tyler also has received the distinction as Most Outstanding Cadet and will be the group commander for the 2019-2020 school year. And this given under my hand as the Mayor of Sugar Land on behalf of the City Council. Tyler, congratulations. Tyler, I asked you earlier what school you might be going to. Why don't you tell us? Hopefully you're not heading out of state, but I think you are because you got some family tradition.
I plan on attending the University of Louisville in Kentucky or the University of Virginia Tech.
Well, you'll come back to Texas because this is where your family is, right?
Absolutely.
Can we get everybody kind of to pull in here, the council? I want to put you in the middle with your family. We'll get these other fine cadets right over here. There you go, right there. Perfect.
All right, everyone, look up here, please. One more. All right, thank you all very much.
Tyler, we're proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
There's supposed to be a Boy Scout here tonight, but I don't see any.
Before we move to the main part of our agenda, do we have any scouts with us tonight? Yes, sir. There he is. He's back there hiding.
Incognito.
Could you stand, tell us your name, your troop, and what badge you're working on?
I'm Alexander Chaplin of Troop 103, and I am working on both the communication and citizenship and the community
Alexander, thanks for coming tonight. That's diligence, working on 2 badges at one time. We're going to move to item number 1. Item number 1 is public comment. It's reserved for anybody wanting to speak on an agenda item that's not listed as a public hearing. Do we have anybody that would like to speak? Going twice. Move on to item number 2, review of consent agenda. Item number 3, consent agenda. All these items are considered routine business unless the council member wants to pull one, at which time we'll consider the other items as one item, and then we'll consider the pulled item.
3A.
You gonna pull 3A? Okay. Excuse me. We'll go ahead and take items B through F. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion by McCutcheon. Do I have a second? Got a second by Porter. Any further discussion? Vote at this time, please. And it's a 6-0 vote with Councilmember Young out. We're going to return now to item number 3A, second consideration. Consideration of an action on City of Sugar Land Ordinance number 2156. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 3, Article 10, Section 3177, city-owned waterways, swimming, boating, etc. prohibited, and amending Chapter 5 to add new Section 5.8 to allow for the use of non-motorized boats in designated city-owned and/or city-controlled waterways. We've got our own Joe Chesser, Director of Parks and Rec. Joe.
Good evening, Mayor, City, and members of City Council. Be happy to answer any questions regarding this item.
Thanks, Joe.
Ramesh?
Thanks, Mayor. Councilmember Lane had brought up some issues last time, and I thought they were really good issues. Last time this item was in front of the council, and I believe you guys were going to go back to the Parks Board. I believe there was going to be some other diligence done on this item. I wanted to get clarity on whether or not that was done and what the results of that was.
Yes, sir. At the May 14th Parks Board meeting, we brought this item up, discussed it with the board, reviewed a set of rules and recommendations that we would be posting at the locations where the canoeing and kayaking would be allowed. We had a list of items of the rules, such as how to have the proper safety gear, what to look out for at those locations, warnings, and then how to contact 911 if something was to happen. We place requirements that a child or a minor under 18 be accompanied by a parent or guardian. We visited with the Parks Board on those items. They reviewed it, provided some comments that we applied to the rules and recommendations, and we forwarded that information to council and shared it in an FYI memo to council later on after that. And so we feel like we're ready to proceed with placing signs so we'd have safe kayaking and canoeing at these locations.
Yeah, I really do appreciate you doing that, and I'm very supportive of the change, and I think they're good changes. So.
Is that a motion?
Yes, sir. A motion approved.
I've got a motion by Gandhi, second by Lane. Any other comments? You'll vote at this time, please. And it's a 6-0 vote. Thank you, Joe. Item number 4, contracts and agreements, 4A. Consideration of an action on authorizing the execution of a construction contract with Wade Kahn LLC in the amount of $3,421,804.60 for the Covington Woods drainage improvements at Sugar Mill, Relief Line and 7th Street reconstruction, CIP DR 1801 ST 1804, a budget amendment in the amount of $691,500 from utility CIP fund balance, and a budget amendment in the amount of $377,354.12 from CIP ST 1806 and CIP ST 1903 to CIP DR 1801 ST 1804. And we've got Jorge Alba, our Senior Engineering Manager. Jorge.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, city manager. In 2013, the city completed a drainage study in the Covington Woods area that identified several drainage improvement projects needed in the Sugar Mill area specifically. More specifically, these areas are the areas adjacent to Sugarland Middle School and Moorwood Lane that experience excessive street bonding during medium to extreme storm events and impassable roads during these events, and these areas are not in compliance with the performance-based criteria. Additionally, the Public Works Department determined that the pavement score in these areas is very low, requiring pavement reconstruction of 7th Street from Moorwood Lane to Pullman Drive. Payment score in 2016 for 7th Street was 18, and for Moorwood Lane was 56. Although this is primarily a drainage and street reconstruction project, the city has taken a holistic approach to major infrastructure project design. During the design, staff identified the need to address the water line within the project area. Staff researched the breakage history, age, and pipe materials for this water line, and the decision was made to include in the scope of work the replacement of the water line from Wood Street to Eldridge Road due to maintenance record history and the close proximity to the drainage and street reconstruction project. Having the ability to address the water line with the proposed drainage project creates efficiency and allows us to address all necessary improvements at one time rather than returning to the area at a later date to address the water line issues. The project was designed, the project design was completed in February of this year and bid soon after. Bids were received on March 2019. Unfortunately, all of the bids were above budget. So bids were rejected by City Council in April, and staff developed 4 alternates that I will explain in much detail later to provide flexibility to fit in our budget. With these alternates, the project was rebid in May 2019, and we received 3 bids at that time. So this is the project location. As I mentioned before, the project is located in the Sugar Mill area between the city-owned park. Let me see if I can get the mouse to work. Okay, the city-owned park right here next to Sugarland Middle School and Moorwood Drive right over here. So it's along 7th Street. In addition, it will include improvements to Moorwood Lane between 7th Street and the cul-de-sac at the south section of Moorwood Lane. So the options, the project scope includes the base bid, which has the following, and let me go back to the map, I'm sorry. The base bid includes the construction of a 60 inches storm sewer relief line in the city-owned park and the rebuild of the asphalt into Dish 822. Also, full pavement replacement of 7th Street from the park to Moorwood Lane and along Moorwood Lane from 7th Street to the cul-de-sac. Also will include the replacement of the storm drain pipes along Moorwood Lane and 7th Street in connection to the pipe. And the replacement of all the sidewalks affected by the project. I'm sorry, I'm going to leave it this so I can explain the other alternates. Alternate 1 is the deduction of half the pavement replacement, which is the south section of 7th Street between Moorwood Lane and the park, and the west section of Moorwood Lane. Alternate 2 is the reconstruction of the sidewalks along 7th Street in the project area that were not replaced during the base bid. Alternate 3 is the replacement of the water line and other appurtenances from Wood Street to Eldridge on this end. And finally, in order to be more efficient with the utilization of the available budget, staff added the design of the drainage and street reconstruction from Bournewood Drive to Wood Lake Circle. This is what was bid as an alternate 4. So the bids were advertised in May 1st and May 8, 2019. 3 bids submitted, or 3 bidders submitted, and the bids were opened on May 16, 2019. Wacon LLC was the apparent low bidder, and after the evaluation from LAN, the city consultant, they recommended to award the contract to Wacon LLC. So this is just the summary of all the bidders and the 4 different alternates with the base bid. So what the staff recommend at this time is to contract with Wacon LLC for the base bid in the amount of $2,829,432, and alternate 3, which is the water line replacement, for $592,372, for a total amount of $3,421,804. The project, the sources for the project funding are from the CIP DR 1801 and ST 1804 that covers $2,629,010, and a budget amendment of the remaining funds from the CIP ST 1806 and ST 1903, which is the payment rehabilitation funds, for an amount of $377,354, and a budget amendment from the utility CIP funds balance to perform the replacement of the existing water line. This will be providing a total funding of $3,697,864. This will allow to this project to move forward to cover the construction costs, 5% contingency, material testing, and construction administration. If approved by City Council tonight, staff will issue notice to proceed this week, later this week on June 6th. Substantial completion is expected to be done in front of the Sugar Land Middle School area by August 14, 2019, with the remainder of the project to be completed by May 2020. The project includes tree protection along 7th Street and Moorwood Lane within the project limits and at the city-owned park. Closure on 7th Street won't be allowed from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. In addition, construction on the residential streets won't be allowed from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Regarding construction notifications, staff will maintain communication with residents to make them aware of the construction activities and the impact on residents according to City Policy CO 110. We will maintain continuous updates in the city webpage and CIP story map, and as necessary, we will use door hangers and email blast. Staff will provide advance notice on services interruptions as follows. Water services interruptions, 5 days in advance. Road closures, 2 weeks in advance. Mail delivery and trash pickups, 5 days. And driveway access limitations, 5 days in advance. So the Engineering and Public Works Departments request consideration of an action on a construction contract with Wacom LLC in the amount of $3,421,804 for CIP 1801 ST 1804 Covington Woods drainage improvements at Sugar Mill Relief Line and 7th Street reconstruction, and authorize a budget amendment to CIP DR 1801 ST 1804 from the Payment Rehabilitation Fund CIP ST 1806 ST 1903 for the amount of $377,354, and from the utility fund, the utility CIP fund balance for $691,500. Forgot to mention that we have Mr. Dale Reynolds with Wacom here present. So with this, if council members have any questions?
Questions? Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Substantial completion by August 14th. I guess you judge that to be safe for school to start?
That was mostly in agreement with the school to avoid any interruptions, and we're going to try really hard to get that complete by August 14. That's that segment in front of the school only.
Try really hard, or commit to do
it's
it?
part of the contract. Actually, it's part of the contract that the contractor.
Was it part of the evaluation that this company could mobilize and finish this work before school started?
Yes, sir. And we asked them before we actually agree with them that they will be able to complete that segment.
Can I hear it from the contractor?
Go ahead and tell us your name and the company. Yes, sir.
Dale Reynolds, General Superintendent, Wacom.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah, we can't complete it if the heavens doesn't open up and just create all kind of havoc.
Yeah. So how many contingency days do you have in your plan to still get done before school opens?
I don't have that information. I'm just kind of the last minute thing if you want to know the truth.
Yeah. So nobody knows the answer to that question? Here comes Jesse.
Okay,
For the contract, we does require the contract to complete by August 14th, the section before the middle school, of course, by the permits. But also in the contract, we have a provision if, the delay caused by the weather or other unforeseen conditions, we do allow contractor work in front of school, but at certain hours. For example, cannot work before 9 o'clock, cannot work after 2 p.m. or 2:30 p.m. I don't remember the exact number. I think it's 2:30. They can only work from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. With prior approval by the city.
Okay.
That's the provision.
I'll hold you to it. Thank you. I make a motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve by Councilmember Porter. Do I have a second? Got a second, Mama McCutcheon. Any other question? You vote this time, please. And it passes 6-0. Thank you, Jorge. Item number 4B, consideration of an action on authorizing the execution of a standard tax abatement agreement by and between the City of Sugar Land, Texas, and Sugar Land Industrial Properties, LLC. Devin Rodriguez, our Assistant Director of Economic Development. Devin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much. So yes, tonight we are presenting a standard tax abatement agreement with Sugar Land Industrial Properties, LLC. The developer for the property is Johnson Development and Associates, and so I just wanted to recognize two individuals with JDA today. Andy Halligan, the JDA's Regional Director, and Madison Jones, JDA's Development Manager, is in the rear of the room there. So just wanted to recognize them before I started the presentation.
Thank y'all for coming.
Just a quick overview about tax abatements in Sugar Land and why we do them. Sugar Land City Council, we have the offer to offer companies property tax abatements to encourage economic development within the city. The city does not lose any money through these value-added tax abatements. They would most likely not occur without the tax abatement, so it's value added to the tax roll. It's a significant property tax revenue to the city after the abatement expires, which is a 10-year term, and it fully benefits the local school districts because they do not participate in these tax abatement agreements. Our tax abatements, of course, follow the state guidelines, and we also have our city guidelines that were recently strengthened about a year and a half ago. So a quick overview of the tax abatement process. The first step is the creation of the reinvestment zone, which we have a public hearing in the first reading, which occurred on May 21st. And then there's the second reading and approval of the reinvestment zone, which happened earlier in the agenda tonight. Then the second step is approval of the tax abatement agreement, which is what this item is. So a little bit of background, Johnson Development Associates, or JDA, is the developer for this project. They are not, just to be clear, they're not associated with our local group that many people know of, Johnson Development, who has done the Imperial project. So this is a different group. They are based out of South Carolina, and they are a nationwide industrial real estate developer. They have a lot of experience in developing distribution, e-commerce, light manufacturing facilities, and worked with several Class A quality tenants that are listed there on the presentation. And in total, they've built over 22 million square feet in industrial space across the country. So here are the details on the project. They would like to build 2 speculative industrial buildings totaling a little over almost 316,000 square feet. And it's an investment of $11.6 million in that real property improvement. So these are going to be built speculatively, but JDA will be marketing them and for lease while it is under construction, and they anticipate the buildings to be leased by March 2021 is the time frame. So this is the reinvestment zone number 2019-02 that was approved earlier. The reinvestment zone is an almost 18-acre site in the Sugar Land Business Park, which is almost built out. There's the description there for the reinvestment zone, which I will not read in its entirety, but it received its first reading on May 21st and the second reading earlier tonight. The tax abatement agreement, these are the details and what are in the agreement. It's a term of 10 years. The performance obligations are that JDA must construct the 2 speculative buildings, separated, that's the approximate square footage of the 2 separate, almost 149,000 square feet, and then almost 167,000 square feet, so totaling that over 316,000 square feet. They will spend $11.6 million in real property improvements, and they must maintain a minimum improvement value of 9.28 each year in order to receive their tax abatement. The tax abatement is 35% over 10 years, which is in alignment with our tax abatement guidelines. And then the compliance is that all property taxes that have been abated, if the agreement is terminated, all property taxes that are abated plus interest would be repaid to the city if the agreement is terminated per the termination clause. So tonight, a recommendation is, one, we've reviewed this with the EDC, our Economic Development Committee, and staff would recommend approval of the agreement. If approved, JDA would begin construction this summer with the completion of construction by the end of 2020 is the timeframe, expected timeframe. So with that, if you all have any clarifying questions for me.
Would somebody from the EDC like to speak? See? Yeah, I'll get you next time.
We've looked at this pretty hard. It complies, as Devin has said, with all of our guidelines. We get 65% of something instead of 100% of nothing. The EDC was unanimous in support of it. And I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Steve. Alan?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to highlight that same point, and please, Devin, if you'd verify that what I'm saying is correct. The information indicates that during the 10-year abatement, the city would receive over $19,000 a year.
I believe that is the number, the calculation that we have in the staff report.
And at the end of the tax abatement, it would go up to what I calculate to be about almost $29,000, because you're adding that essentially 1/3 of the abatement, you're adding it back in. So we make almost $200,000 during the abatement.
Correct.
That we might not otherwise get if we weren't able to attract this business. And this is an industrial property and industrial buildings that we will also be able to benefit from future inventory.
Correct. Any new business any new business that there will be a new business in these buildings that will bring jobs, investment, and inventory that will not be abated.
Very good.
Plus
Thank
sales
you.
and use tax. All right.
Correct.
Yeah. Himesh?
Question, these are speculative buildings now. Obviously, we all hope that that won't be speculative for too long, and I'm sure they are already discussing that. But let's say worst case scenario, they don't lease the buildings for some period of time. Does that delay anything, or does this tie to the status of any of their leases?
The tax abatement agreement does not.
Okay, so regardless of what happens, the tax abatement agreement still is in effect?
Correct.
Thank you.
We've got a motion by Councilmember Porter. I'll second the motion. Do we have any other discussion? Steve?
Yeah, just one other thing. We asked and made sure that the applicants understood the limitations of the type of businesses that can go in there, and they fully understand what the limitations are. And so we shouldn't have any worry about that.
Anyone else got a motion? You got a second? If you vote this time, please. And it passes with a 6-0 vote. Thank you, Devin. Item number 4C, consideration of an action on authorizing the execution of Amendment Number 1 to the lease agreement between the City of Sugar Land and the Houston Museum of Natural Science, and authorize a Sugar Land 4B Corporation budget amendment in the amount of $100,000 for the additional museum improvements at the Houston Museum of Natural Science at Sugar Land. We have Catherine Turner, our compliance manager. Catherine.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. As the mayor said, tonight you're going to be considering the approval of the First Amendment to the lease agreement that we have with the Houston Museum of Natural Science at Sugar Land, as well as a related budget amendment for the SL4B. So before we get started tonight, we do have with us today Ms. Adrienne Barker, the Director and Chief Development Officer at the museum. So we appreciate her being here. The Economic Development Department has been following a strategy recommended by the citizen-led 2007 Visioning Task Force to develop destination venues within the city that are promoted through the Visit Sugar Land tourism program once they're opened. Examples of such venues include Constellation Field as well as the Smart Financial Center. And these efforts to develop unique destination venues are part of a larger successful strategy that's been in place for over a decade to grow and solidify the city's reputation as an economic powerhouse and a destination location, not to mention increasing the city's financial resilience. The Sugar Land 4B Corporation, which is funded through a voter-approved half-cent sales tax and is restricted by state law to promote, assist, and enhance economic development activities and quality of life opportunities, has played a really important role in the implementation of these strategies. It's vital for these destination venues to remain up to date and refreshed so they maintain their relevance within the region's market, as well as to continue offering a great asset to our community. In line with this thinking, as well as to ensure the continued success of our strong public-private partnerships, the City Council passed Resolution number 1903 on February 5th of this year that establishes a policy on funding destination venue capital projects. This policy outlines the project criteria, request process, and factors to consider in the evaluation of projects, including some specific destination definitions that have to be met to be eligible. Specifically, a capital enhancement project is a project that enhances and updates infrastructure, assets, and land that are capital in nature, provide a long-term added value, and achieve a stated objective of the city. Similarly, a public destination venue is defined as a property that's either owned, leased, or under the control of the city, or that has facilities that attracts events for the general public. So with all that being established, the museum's application was received on February the 12th for a request for $100,000 to help fund their $282,000 project for first floor improvements that will include a new hall of technology and the addition of an outdoor learning center. To date, the museum has received roughly $155,000 in donations, and the purpose of this project, which will coincide with the museum's 10th anniversary, is to meet the needs of visitors as well as school students that visit the museum for educational programming. So here you can see a general layout of the first floor. Don't worry, the iconic T-Rex will be remaining in place, and the chemistry and energy components are going to be located to the right. And the salt and geology exhibits are to the left. And then near the back, you can see here in the green, the life sciences will be located near the entrance to the outdoor learning center and the butterfly garden. So just running through some renderings pretty quickly here. This will be the salt and geology area. This is going to include a salt dome experience that simulates an elevator ride to the bottom of a salt dome. Here is the chemistry and energy area, which will include a microscope bar and chemistry demonstration area. Finally, we have the life science exhibits being relocated and the addition of an outdoor learning center with the plant identification system being added to the butterfly garden. The policy outlines evaluation criteria for projects, which we're going to quickly go through here. The museum has been open for 10 years, since 2009, and it was a public-private partnership for the city. This is the museum's first request for funding under the Destination Venue Capital Projects policy. It will provide an economic benefit to the city by attracting regional visitors due to the new exhibitions. And finally, the project provides an overall community benefit, and it will give the community access to new opportunities for learning. So as mentioned, the museum's application was submitted on February the 12th, and as outlined per the policy, was then reviewed with the Economic Development Committee on their February 16th meeting. The EDC was supportive of proceeding with consideration of funding, so the project was then reviewed with the SL4B on March 20th, and they also gave their support to the project. As such, the 4B approved their budget amendment and project funding through resolution number 2019-0403 on April 17th. So today, you're going to be considering an amendment to the city's lease with the museum to formalize those improvements and the related funding, as well as approve the 4B's budget amendment. So the lease amendment would be the first to the lease agreement that we have with the museum, and it outlines that the city will pay $100,000 to the museum within 60 days of the amendment's execution, which can only be used for costs related to the improvements. It also dictates that the museum must award a contract for construction or begin construction by September the 1st, and that the improvements must be completed by December the 1st. Similarly, the museum must submit receipts and invoices by December 31st, showing how that money was spent so we can ensure it was only towards the agreed upon improvements. Finally, the amendment includes a clawback provision for funds if they're used improperly or if the improvements are removed or significantly altered without the city's prior approval. So next, the 4B approved their budget amendment, as mentioned, moving $100,000 from the FY19 ending fund balance to an expenditure line item for the improvements. This amendment is going to cause the ending fund balance to decrease to $2.338 million, which is still $1.4 million over the 4B's policy requirements. So now, we recommend that you consider approval of the SL4B's budget amendment and Amendment 1 to the lease agreement between the city and the museum. And we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Carol?
I just want to say that the Sugar Land 4B Corporation unanimously approved this in light of the museum's 10-year anniversary coming up. We were very excited about the opportunity to to contribute $100,000 to the Hall of Technology and the Outdoor Learning Center. And as I am a chemical engineer and a Fort Wayne Master Gardener and also working decades in the energy business, I'm personally extremely excited about this as well. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
We've got a motion by McCutcheon, and I'm going to second by Porter. Any other questions? Yeah, Stuart.
Ms. Turner, is there, do we have any idea of what kind of positive cash flow the city might be able to receive from this investment?
You mean in terms of revenues from the museum?
Yeah. The extra investment of $100,000, what do we think that would produce for the city in terms of revenues?
So the city doesn't actually anticipate any revenues coming back per our lease agreement with the museum. They pay an annual established rent fee, and since they are nonprofit organizations, they do retain all revenues.
Okay, thank you.
But we definitely see it as an amenity for the community, and additionally anticipate it to attract some regional visitors as well. So in terms of sales tax, we're hoping to see some increase there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
By way of a little bit of more explanation, so this is part of sales and use tax dollars. So out of the 2% that the city gets, a quarter cent goes to 4A, quarter cent goes to 4B. The city takes the other 1.5% in the general fund. Part of the investment, if you will, is sales and use tax. There are no property tax dollars being committed to this. This is brought to us, actually, Bridget and I worked on this with Adrian. It required an amendment to our original policy. We thought this was an appropriate investment to make with 4B dollars, which go to quality of life in the city of Sugar Land. You could even make an argument this is economic development for the city of Sugar Land. It benefits not only the kids in the schools, but it also brings visitors into the city that spend other dollars within the city. So this is a great investment, I think, for the city of Sugar Land. Adrian, we appreciate your partnership. This is a long-term investment over time. This is, I think, the first time that we've updated the facility, and it's time for a little facelift. And we've seen these were 4B dollars that were used out here in the plaza, and we've seen the return on investment in that just by the way people have used it. So I think it's an appropriate investment.
Absolutely.
Got a motion and a second. If you'll vote at this time, please. And it's a 6-0 vote. Thank you, Catherine. Item number 5A. 5, ordinances and resolutions. 5A, first and final consideration of and action on City of Sugar Land ordinance number 2162, an ordinance of the City of Sugar Land, the City Council of the City of Sugar Land, Texas, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 2, Article 5, Division 4, Section 2136, fees for various city services, by revising the method of establishing building permit, plan inspection, and mechanical services fees for residential dwellings to reflect changes required by our wonderful legislature. House Bill 852, I'm sorry, that wonderful wasn't part of it. And we're going to have with us, we're going to have Rick Ramirez, our Intergovernmental Relations Manager. Rick, you cringe every time I do this, don't you? Jennifer Brown, our Financial Director, and Clark Peschel will be our building official that can answer any questions. Rick, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So for tonight's presentation, I'm going to be doing the majority of the presentation. Jennifer Brown will be helping me out with some of the fee structure parts, and Jennifer, myself, and Clark will be here to answer any questions you may have. So House Bill 852 relating to residential building permit fees was signed into law on May 21st. The bill prohibits cities from calculating residential building permits based on the value of or cost of a proposed residential structure or improvement. Because the bill became effective immediately on May 21st, cities are going to have to change their systems for calculating building permit fees as soon as possible. Tonight, we're asking City Council's consideration of a revision to the Code of Ordinances to come in compliance with the new law. A fee study will be conducted, and staff will be revisiting these building permit fees with City Council in FY20. So as mentioned earlier, HB 852 provides that a city may not consider value or cost of construction or improvement when determining building permit or inspection fees. Additionally, a city may not require disclosure of value or cost of construction or improvement of a residential dwelling as a condition of obtaining a building permit, except as required by FEMA for the participation in the NFIP. It's important to reiterate, though, that HB 852 only applies to permits or inspection fees for residential dwellings. You will see that the ordinance does not make changes to the way commercial building permits and fees are calculated. So Ordinance 2162 makes changes to the Chapter 2, Article 5 of the Code of Ordinances. The ordinance separates commercial and residential building permits into the following subcategories. Commercial building, which includes building permit and plan check fees based on construction values. There's no change with that. Then there's residential building, which includes building permit and plan check fees based on square footage. The plan checking fee is half the building fee, the building permit fee when the square footage exceeds the minimum permit fee. And then commercial and residential building, and also there's no change to that as well. Continuing with ordinance number 2162, the ordinance also makes a change to the mechanical services fee by creating the following two subcategories. Commercial buildings, which includes a mechanical service fee based on construction value. Again, there's no change to how commercial fees are calculated. And then residential building, which are based on square footage. We're going to go further into detail on the actual fees and the development of the permit structure in the next two slides, and Jennifer will handle those two slides.
So for the square footage model, we were charged with coming up with different methodology for calculating the cost of the permit. We looked at data for the permits that have actually been issued since October 1 of this year through the current period, which was the end of March and into April. We had 81 home permits that we were looking at. Our goal was looking at what was the value of the homes that were permitted, the size in square footage, what were the permit fees that we actually collected under the prior structure, current structure, and looking at coming up with a methodology of developing a new structure so that the city would still recover revenue to support the cost of services that we're providing with the cost of inspections. And so our goal was to not under-recover revenue, but also not have lower value homes subsidizing higher value homes, and kind of come up with some way that was equitable based on the amount of work effort that was being put in by the permit staff. So we looked at those homes and came up with a model that is basically either 55, 60, or 65 cents per square foot, depending on the size of the home being permitted. And so we've come up with a chart to put into the ordinance that really just kind of scales it up based on increments. So you can really look at the schedule and say, okay, if I have a 1,550 square foot house, I want, then my fee would be $900 plus 50 feet at 60 cents per square feet. And so you can calculate a fee, and we've developed a model that will help the permit staff actually calculate the fee that would be required just right there on the fly through Excel. The higher or the larger homes obviously would pay more in permits, and what we found was that some of the, using the valuation method, a lot of our higher value homes were potentially under recovering for the amount of effort that was being put in. And so the plan check fee will still be in place. This is under the current ordinance, that there is a plan check fee that is equal to 50% of the permit cost, and there is a minimum fee, permit fee of $55. That is still in place. Both of those are remaining unchanged. Only the structure of the fee structure is changing, putting it on a square footage basis versus a valuation basis. But we tried to make it to where if you had a very small remodel job, that you weren't like being subjected to a higher cost of permit versus permitting a very large home. So it should be flexible. We'll look at it. We'll put it in place. As Rick said, we're putting in the budget money for a fee, comprehensive fee evaluation. This will be one of the things that we will be asking for the fee study to look at, and if there's modifications or a different methodology that's recommended, we'll bring that back.
Thank you, Jennifer. And so we are coming to you for first and final consideration. So Section 209A4 of the City Charter allows City Council to approve an ordinance on one reading if there is an emergency that exists because there's an immediate need to preserve and protect the peace, health, safety, or welfare of the community. The issuance of building permits affects the health and safety of the public, and that's the reason why we're coming to you for first and final consideration. So the next steps would be, upon approval from City Council, we would implement a new system with permit technicians to ensure that there's a smooth transition, and then we'd have that future fee study in FY20. So with that, staff recommends City Council approve ordinance number 2162 on one reading to revise the residential building permit fee structure, and I will take any questions.
Thank you, Rick. Jennifer, any question? I'll make the motion to approve.
Mayor, in the motion, it needs to declare that there's an emergency, and that's why there's one reading.
I'll amend the motion to declare that there is an emergency, that we need to adopt this ordinance in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Sugar Land. I've got a second by Gandhi. If you'll all vote at this time, please. And it's a 6-0 vote. Thank you, Rick, Jennifer. Thank you, Clark. Thank you, Meredith. Item number 6, workshop. 6A, review of and discussion on the 2020 census planning efforts. And we have Ruth Lomer, our city planner, long range. Hey, Ruth.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. I am here this evening to talk to you a little bit about the 2020 census. I'm going to talk to you about the background and some preparations that have already been underway for the census, talk to you about the Complete Count Committee, and then our next steps. So the census is coming. It's April 1st, 2020. As you may know, it is mandated by the U.S. Constitution to be conducted every 10 years. It establishes the population counts and the demographics across the country and serves as the basis for reapportioning congressional seats, federal, state, and local redistricting, and for distributing more than $675 billion in federal funds annually to states, counties, and local communities for important things like housing, education, transportation, and other elements. Specifically for Sugar Land, having good census data is important because we use the demographics and population for planning purposes, not just in the planning department, but across our organization and across the community. It also serves as the basis for things like emergency management grant applications, regional transportation and mobility improvements, determining our peer cities for comparison for a wide variety of things, and also establishing our single-member council districts. The Census Bureau has designated the 2020 census kind of tagline as "Shape Your Future, Start Here," and they're saying that it's quick, easy, and safe to respond anytime and anywhere. Technology is going to make it easier than ever for individuals to respond. This will be the first time that anyone will be able to respond to the census online. So welcome to the 21st century. People will also be able to access by phone or by mail as well if they don't have access to online or don't want to. So the census is in 2020, but we actually as staff have been undergoing preparation since 2017. So we've already been doing a lot of work, and so I just want to give you a little bit of a taste of what we've been doing. There's kind of two primary efforts, looking at the address list and then looking at geographical boundaries. First, we want to make sure that the census has a complete and accurate address list for every household in Sugar Land so that every household receives a survey and that they get it back to the census. So we participated in the local update of census addresses operation last year, and essentially we just had to provide them all of our addresses at that time. Now, as you can expect, things have changed since then, and they will continue to change throughout the year, and so we'll provide them additional addresses through the new Construction for Land program later this year, and that will include addresses that we are expected to be on the ground through April 2020. We also have been participating in a couple of other programs. The Boundary and Annexation Survey is actually an annual program that we participate in where we provide annual updates of the city's boundaries to the census, and so we last provided our update in January 2019. So it does include the Greatwood and New Territory communities. So through the next census, we will see data incorporating those new areas into the city. And then finally, the Participant Statistical Areas Program was completed recently, and this was where we had an opportunity to review the census tract and block group boundaries. This was in an effort to ensure that the data that is disseminated, that's collected and disseminated, is best useful for us. So we were able to make recommendations for those areas that needed to be split based on population and households in areas that are growing. And really, our goal was to keep Sugar Land city limits and ETJ together, and then to keep neighborhoods together. So in the future, when we want to pull various data, whether it's the age of a neighborhood or other demographic information, then you have neighborhoods that are whole, and it makes sense. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Complete Count Committee. The census encourages communities to create complete count committees. They are census ambassadors that promote participation in the census. And so these are people that are going to be trusted leaders and voices within the community. So if they go out and talk to their neighbors and their friends, people trust them and know that, that they can be believed. They are an all-inclusive group that needs to address the various racial, ethnic, cultural, and geographic considerations of our community. And they will plan and implement outreach campaigns that raise awareness of the census. We will utilize different mediums to get the word out, whether it's social media, advertisements on TV, kind of all of the different ways that we can get the word out. And they will be working with kind of existing networks, faith-based communities, service organizations in the community and things like that to kind of get the word out about the census. So we anticipate having the committee be made up of 2 to 3 representatives from groups within Sugar Land, including the faith-based community, community and nonprofit organizations, the school districts and education sector, business and employment community, and then some potential additional at-large members. We will be creating this as a city manager task force in order to enable us to establish the committee by early August. And through a streamlined process and enable us to go through both an application and an interview process. We did review the process with the IG committee at their meeting in May, and they concurred with this process. The census is broken down these next couple of years into a few different phases, and I'm just going to walk through them real quickly with you. The first phase is now through December of this year, and this is the education phase, and this is where we're going to be creating the Complete Count Committee, giving them their orientation, and then that's when they're going to develop their outreach campaign. The awareness phase is where the outreach campaign is implemented, and that's when we'll really start seeing and hearing about the census out in the world, just in everywhere. The awareness phase, I just said that. Motivation phase will be March through May of next year, so that's straddling the April 1st Census Day, where we will encourage residents to respond accurately and return their census immediately. May through July, people can still respond, and so we want to encourage households that have not yet responded to go ahead and do so, or they can just wait for a census taker to knock on their door, which most people don't want. So hopefully that'll motivate people to go ahead and respond. And then finally, the thank you phase just kind of thanks everyone for their participation. So our next steps are to open applications for the Complete Count Committee, which we will be doing next week. And we will be reaching out to a variety of community groups in the city, encouraging their leaders to apply for the Complete Count Committee. We are asking for your help as City Council. You're connected to a lot of these community groups and maybe some that we don't know about, to send the information onto them. We will be providing you with information later this week or early next week about the committee. And so we would just ask for your help in getting the word out about applying for the committee. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ruth. Question, Carol?
About how many people do you anticipate having on the Complete Count Committee altogether?
Yeah, we hope to have about 15 to 20.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You good to go? Thank you, Ruth.
Okay, thanks so much.
Item number 7, appointments. 7A, consideration of an action on 5 appointments to the Telfair Track 5 Commercial Management District Board of Directors for a term expiring June 1st, 2023. And these individuals were all discussed with the IG committee, and we concurred. Position 1 is Doug Brinkley. Position 2 is Jennifer Brown. Position 3 is Gary Becker. Position 4 is Michael Schiff. Position 5 is Greg Wine. Are there any other nominations? Motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Got a motion by McCutcheon. Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a second by Lane. You'll vote at this time, please. And it's a 6-0 vote. Thank you. Item number 8, City Council City Manager reports. 8A, City Council Member reports. Jennifer, let's start with you.
Okay. Memorial Day celebration with all of you guys. It went very well. We had a band this time for the first time around, and they were so excited to be there and hope that they continue to be able to play with us in future years. The Mayor and Council Association meeting that we hosted at the Steelers Stadium went very well. Learned a lot from Commissioner Myers, who had come and talked about some strategies he was implementing in the county, and meeting other mayors and councilmen in our area. The mayor and I and Council Member McCutcheon went on a tour of the Hindu temple in Stafford. It was a very pleasurable experience, and got to meet their religious leaders, and we had a very good time making new friends. And upcoming is the LID 2 community meeting, State of Higher Education Luncheon, and the ACF AAA Firefighter of the Year presentation tomorrow.
Thank you, Jennifer. Steve?
I'll just highlight one item. I helped our intergovernmental relations manager host Fort Bend ISD at Constellation Field.
Carol?
Yes, I attended a Commonwealth HOA meeting, and they were concerned about street flooding and the inability of residents to be able to evacuate if there's a future flood event. And they're also concerned about fire trucks being able to get to homes in their area in a timely manner if there is a fire from like a lightning strike or something during a heavy rain event, similar to what we had on May 7th. And also met with Sweetwater residents, and they were very concerned about the flooding in their neighborhoods. They had a sixth of the homes in their neighborhood flooded as a result of Harvey. The homes that didn't flood had a 20% devaluation, and then of course the homes that did flood, around 30% or more devaluation. So that's a major concern to them that we'll be working to address. And I would like to congratulate the city on the Memorial Day ceremony. I've been to many of these, and I think this is the best one we've ever had. And 13-year-old Dean Marino, who is the 2019 Junior Superstar winner, really belted out the Star-Spangled Banner. And I attended a reception held by the Italian Consul General to celebrate the 73rd anniversary of the Italian Republic.
Thank you. Himesh?
Items were already stated, Mayor, but I just want to recognize our new city secretary, Thomas Harris. Congratulations. I thought the city put on a wonderful reception earlier today and very well deserved. So congratulations.
Stuart?
In addition to the Memorial Day festivities that have already been mentioned and the Mayor and Council Member Association meeting, I had the pleasure of moderating a Chamber of Commerce, Fort Bend Chamber Young Professionals CEO panel, at which many of our future leaders, community leaders, were in attendance.
Thank you, Stuart. I'm going to highlight a couple things. We had our Sugar Land Police Officers Association golf tournament on Monday. We had a great crowd. We appreciate the support of our Sugar Land Police Officers Association. A shout out to Jignesh Patel, who hosted the tour of the temple. And then on Sunday, the Italian General Consul Federico Ciataglia, Tiziana Triolo, and Manuela Tintoni and Desiree Triolo had the Italian soccer team. Juventus was here. So the Olympic, and they've got, soccer's a big sport over there, and these were some pretty incredible athletes. So we appreciate them being in our plaza area. Alan?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, just want to remind everyone that we are still having election. It is still city council election time with a runoff election being held this Saturday, June 8th. So if you're in the District 4, District 2, excuse me. I get. Yeah, I looked at you and for some reason, District 2.
Through that once. You don't want to go through it again.
Which is the New Territory and Telfair area. Please put out the effort and do your civic duty and vote. And we will have our new council member sworn in, oath of office at your next meeting on June the 18th. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alan. No other business. Motion to adjourn. I've got a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
You may short work